I'm about to take a crazy turn right here. But I brought it up to y'all. Y'all wanted to talk about it, so let's talk about it. It's been on my mind lately. It's been heavy on my mind. I had a conversation with someone that I really respect a couple of weeks ago, talking about like there is no black church, there is no white church, because when we get to heaven, we'll all be one church. Now I'm a firm believer in the fact that there is one church.
Yeah.
And I think what they mean by that, I think what they mean by that when they say that there's one church, or like when they say black church or white church, we're talking about cultural differences, of course.
Yeah.
We're talking about music style, of course. We're talking about worship style.
Yeah.
We're talking about what you do in church. We're talking about there's a difference in energy altogether. Same thing with Latino church. Same thing with Asian church. I don't know if that's like appropriate to say, but like no, Asian is fine.
Yeah.
Asian is fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And so here's my question. Is the multicultural church necessary, or is it okay, and not just okay, but is it good to have culturally different churches without them being culturally diverse? Or is it a both and type of thing?
I think it's a both and. So my thing has growing up in a black church. I grew up in a black mega church, and we had a few white people at our church. But it was a non-denominational church that was ran kind of like a Baptist church. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew the setup of how things were gonna go. These people were raised Baptist, but they were up under a non-denominational umbrella. I think the issue with someone saying, I don't think there should be two different types of churches, or people saying we shouldn't have white church or black church, is because for black people, we've had to some type of way come up under an like this umbrella of what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh no.
Not charismatic.
Evangelicalism?
No.
I don't
if you're
know
not
what we talking about.
Right.
If
you're not charismatic, then you are
conservative.
Like when people come into a black church and you hear speaking in tongues and you hear shouting, or you see shouting and you see people dancing a lot, like it's like that's frowned upon. Yeah. But if you come in church and you stand in place and you clap the way you're supposed to clap,
at the conservative church,
at any church, like it's like if you in a black church, that in a charismatic church,
there you go.
if you do either one, you're okay. If you shout, you speak in tongues, or you just stand there and clap, you're fine. But at a conservative church, if you shout and run around, you get looked at funny. Most of the time, people consider conservative churches white churches, and they consider charismatic churches black churches. So if you look at I think it's hard for somebody to say. It's easy for somebody to say we should all worship together when they haven't been looked at crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I am with it. I'm like, man, like if the pastor says something and I'm like, all right, pastor, and everybody else around me is conservative and just wants to sit there.
Not now, sir.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you get looked at funny.
Yeah.
But at a more charismatic church, you can sit there and not say a thing, and Nobody's gonna judge you. You can shout, you can stand up, do the do the whole stand up and look at the pastor like, all right now,
Right.
I'll come up there and punch you, pastor.
Right,
That was good. That was a good one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can do any of that.
Right.
So
Right.
that's why yeah. Like
Oh, I missed that. So
right. So like I'm just like, man, like it's easy for somebody to say, man, like, no, we shouldn't have two types of churches, when it's like, man, no. Like, especially for black, like a lot of black folks, like if you've overcome a lot of stuff for any person, I don't care if you white, black, Hispanic, Asian, I hope I'm not missing one, so don't nobody get offended. But like for anybody, like if a person gets out of jail and the first place they come is church, and the pastor says something and they want to stand up and clap real hard and praise the Lord or whatever it is they want to do, then cool. But I'm just like, man, is there a church for that person? And I don't think the charismatic church, I mean, not the charismatic, the dang, what's the word? Conservative. The conservative church will appreciate and accept that person for coming in and doing what it is that they, you know what I'm saying, what they feel like is appropriate at that particular point in time.
That's good.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think part of that too is I think you kind of have to revert to the beginning of like how there is how or why there's even like a black expression of church, you know. So like it wasn't like, man, from the beginning, like, hey, like there is an African American now influence in America because Africans were brought here as slaves.
Yep.
Okay. So one, you gotta think about that, and of course, you know, early on with the slave owners who were Christian, like they would force, you know, Christianity on the slaves and whatnot, but they would worship, but still not worship together. Yeah. You know, so you gotta think about how that even came about, to even like identify like the undertones of like, well, why I don't feel comfortable doing certain things here. Like it may not be direct, but it's like, well, man, like there is a history, a generational history of one, me not feeling like I belong here because I was told I don't belong here. And then me having to find another space where I feel like I can belong, and people that look like me belong and express themselves like me belong as well. Yep. Now, there are things that go along with conservatism, and like conservatism.
Yep, there it is.
There we go. And I went to college. And
3 times.
Right, I went to college 3 times.
And I don't say that as a knock. I hope you know that.
No, I don't. I forget sometimes.
I love letting people know that Lon has a master's degree.
I forgot.
He's like 3 credits away from like
I
having like
seminary.
Did you finish seminary?
I need to finish seminary. Anyway, but I'm like a year away probably from finishing seminary. I need to finish.
I went to college once, didn't finish. Hey, but go ahead.
Don't go back. But yeah, like there's a line between what that looks like and so much it goes into, because typically you would identify the conservative church as Republican and the black church is Democratic, and like there are the party lines and what those parties express in their Christianity and the liberalism, and it's so much that goes into it. But for me, at the end of the day, like you have to go back to like, man, you can't say or knock. I think a lot of the onus is on the conservative white church to understand why there's a black church. Yeah. And not to like neglect or reject or downplay, you know, the ideology or the idea of there being black worship or black expression of worship, which is fine. Like you express your faith like in the way that God like made you, and, you know. So I think a lot of it lands on, hey man, before I say anything or before I look down or look perplexed, man, what is the history of Christianity in America? Yeah. How did it develop? Yeah. Like where are the roots? You know?
Yeah.
So I think we need to always look back to look forward. Like it just helps. And I think it doesn't happen enough.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, the party lines come into play. You know, so I'm gonna see, oh, you're conservative, so you're Republican. Oh, you're Pentecostal or Baptist. Oh, you're probably Democrat. So like those come into play before anything else.
Yeah.
So that trumps, no pun intended.
Right.
That trumps like any real common ground to talk about, man, faith.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things we're not persecuted here.
Yeah.
So we get to waste time.
I think that's good to say. Like we're not
persecuted.
You know, social. What is the phrase? Social persecution.
Yeah, social persecution.
Listen,
we're not persecuted.
We are
here.
not
so
persecuted.
We have the opportunity to waste time and bicker about these things because nobody is threatening to burn our church down or put a bomb like in our church or cut our heads off. Like that's just not a thing.
Right.
So we have time to bicker about first world
Christian problem.
The absolute definition of first world Christian problems. But I think, like I said, at the end of the day, like, man, like we have to go back and find out and see where it started and just, man, find some unity in that and to be like, man, like this started because my great whatever grandfather, grandparents was not allowing these people to worship with them.
Yeah.
Even after they forced them to convert.
Yep.
You know, so it's a lot that goes into it that goes unacknowledged.
I mean, I can just hear, like, for me, I just think about the differences between hymnals that we sing in church.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if y'all know the song, but the "Guide me, oh thy great Jehovah,
yes,
pilgrim through this barren land, guide." Like I hear black folks doing that, and like something in me wants to say, man, I can see a slave
just struggling,
like right, you know
struggling,
struggling with it, right?
And
like he sings this and says, this is how we're going to do this. And it's passed on from generation to generation to generation. Mm-hmm. Like people, like there are Baptist churches that still sing that. You know what I'm saying? And like, I don't feel like that's welcome in a more conservative or white church. Like it's not welcome to like, you may sing a hymnal that it's just a different situation. You may sing something that's in a book that you can look at, whatever, but there's no like it doesn't feel like there's a struggle behind it. There's nothing like
there's no soul to it.
Right? There's no soul. I mean, there's no soul to it, but there's no.
No. I hear what she's saying when she's saying
when
soul.
I say soul, I don't mean like genre. I mean
right. Okay.
She means like literal.
Yeah. There's no like, soul to it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like
there's nothing behind it.
Right.
But they didn't need to have anything behind it. You know.
Right.
So it's just I don't know, man. I think it's hard to. So part of the reality is like, of course, if you're in like Cumming or like some. Dahlonega, some far north place in Georgia, like where the population is probably like 98%, 95% white. Like, I don't expect, like, I'm not gonna go to a church up there and be shocked,
right,
that they don't know any Fred Hammond songs or like any. I'm not gonna be shocked. Like, this is the culture that you're in. Yeah. I think there's a difference between not knowing and then being okay with not knowing.
Yeah.
Like I think that's where like you draw this line in the sand of ignorance, whereas like, well, I don't know that, and I don't need to know that because that doesn't affect me, you know.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reality is like there is a man. I feel like black people more often than not, like we have to know about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're almost like obligated to know about things, you know.
I mean,
as opposed to like
everything outside of our culture was taught to us in school.
Yeah.
So we had to learn something different.
So, You know, it's a very interesting and intriguing conversation, and then you get into the white evangelical church and like what they mean to where we're at now and how they're carrying themselves, and the reflection that they're actually having right now on the body of Christ in America.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's like very sad, and a lot of them are okay with it.
Yeah.
Because the party lines have allowed them to cross over into this place where your faith and your party affiliation are somehow synonymous, you know, and it's okay to be okay with certain things because I'm a Christian, then my Republicanness is okay.
Yeah.
And not being in this space where I allow my faith to inform my values. You're in a space now where my values are informed by my party, and because of my party, this is what I have faith in. You know, so you can hear one of the white evangelical leaders say, "Hey, we're gonna we'll call it a mulligan." The stuff that Trump may have said or did prior to him getting in. It's a mulligan. We're gonna brush it off.
Yeah.
We can start him over. Because he's not for abortion, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, all right, cool, having somebody against abortion, which is honestly like he's pandering to y'all if y'all didn't know.
Right.
It's cool, but this man obviously doesn't value human life of different color, of different gender, of different orientation. So what? So what? I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he's against abortion if he doesn't actually care about the dignity of the life after that.
Yeah.
So what?
Dang.
It's so much to unpack and to talk through, and I'm like, this is far beyond us worrying about a black or white church. Like at the end of the day, black or white, like we're at the body of Christ.
Right. Yeah.
And we have a banner to uphold.
Yeah.
That's far beyond what songs we like.
Yeah.
Or whether or not we're comfortable with somebody shouting or leading worship in a certain way. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Like, so one last thing. The hardest part for
I
all
haven't said my piece.
right.
Go ahead.
The hardest part for all of it,
If I want to
or-
my piece.
the hardest part for me is, especially just with church, it's just hard to hear. It's just hard to know that you're even in something where I'm supposed to be accepted.
Yeah.
Your blackness,
Yeah.
is too much.
too much.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember when Reformed theology should just be Reformed theology.
That's it. That's all
Like,
it is.
But when it became this movement,
Mm.
and you know what I'm saying, like your blackness got kicked out with this movement.
I got thoughts about
Like,
that.
I remember hearing things. I'm 19 years old, still impressionable in the mug,
Yeah.
and like hearing people say stuff, and I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? I remember a pastor in Texas, white guy, came to some of us and told us that this white pastor was more my brother. First off, he made it seem as if there were more black people who weren't saved than white people. And then
Okay.
he said, this white brother who is a Christian is more of your brother than your own blood brother who isn't a Christian. And I was like, even me now says, yes, I understand that.
I understand what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. But the comment that you made before that is what bothers me. It is what bothered me and still bothers me when you make the second comment. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an assumption that, like, just the assumption that my brother is not saved, or my cousin, or whoever it is not saved. That's what kind of bugged the heck out of me. And even then made me kind of push away from that whole Reformed theology movement. You know what I'm saying? And just make me go, this is kind of, I don't know how I feel about this. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just don't like the fact that it just
Real quick, funny story.
go for it.
When you said that, it reminded me. So like while I was in seminary, one of my classes, and I went to a Reformed seminary, so I'm like 3 of the black people that are in my class, maybe.
Yeah.
So just talking to the guy, and white guy pulls me over. We're just talking, just regular stuff, and like in the midst of the conversation, he like leans low and like makes it like weird and secretive. He was like, "Man, it's good that you're here, man. We really need more brothers like you in the urban context."
Dang.
And I'm like, I chuckle, because like what do you do? Like I'm on a class break. Do I have time to explain to you why you sound stupid? Like, how do you know I'm not from a suburban church?
Right.
Like it's just, that made me think about that.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Keith, what you got to say? Victoria, you ain't said nothing in the past 2 subjects.
Straight up.
You put your mic up this time. Put your phone down. That's pretty good. Keith, you been the whole time we was talking.
I didn't want to cut nothing that was going on.
Right on, I feel that.
I'll let you go because she like to go last. Like she about to say the most profound.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it be low key profound sometimes. I ain't gonna lie. Just saying.
Why you shade me so much?
Ain't nobody shading you.
Um,
I'm gonna cut that out.
You probably will.
I know he will.
Y'all not gonna know why we laughing. Why they laughing?
I don't know. I feel like, Lonnie, you said a lot of what I was thinking in terms of like looking at it from a historical context as to like why these different types of churches exist. I don't know. It's hard because I know it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
But I know why it is that way. And I can see the value of there being a black church or a white church. Yeah. But honestly, more so I see the value for like black people.
Yeah.
More so than for white people.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like even like the things associated with the black church versus the white church. Like oftentimes I feel like the white church is poised as the intellectual. And with the black church, like we're known for like having the bomb musicians.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I also feel like the black church, and maybe it's just me, I feel like as of late, the black church has been coming under a lot of fire from like the younger generation, just in terms of like how they present the word or like how they choose.
Yeah. People are thinking more.
Yeah. I think people are becoming more enlightened, more aware.
Yeah.
But I think because of that, and I also think white people are starting to become aware as well. Maybe not as vocally aware, but
yeah.
And I think that that's pushing. I think that's where like the, I guess, quote unquote, like multicultural church is now coming from. Because I even have a friend. She's like the youth director at basically a white church here in Atlanta. And she told me how they now have a new co-pastor, and she's a black woman. And she was really excited about it because she was like, we honestly needed her presence in the church.
Yeah.
Because our church is it's so white. And they were like, she brings something so dynamic.
Yeah.
To the leadership that they had not had for like the decades that the church had been in existence.
And that's crazy.
And so I don't know. It's just, I personally like the idea of multicultural churches.
Yes.
But I also feel like a lot of the times, I wonder if multicultural churches are growing in the way that they are because people are running from hurt done by, the black church or the white church, or like, is this what people are finding the solution to be?
So, well,
Go for it.
So this subject has just been weighing on me for, I think Jared and Lon know for at least like 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Just constantly, like, not constantly, but like thinking about this on a deeper level. I came across this post on on Facebook, and it's called The Sunken Place Ecclesiology. What does ecclesiology mean?
Ecclesiology is basically the thought or theory of church.
Okay. What does Ecclesiastes mean?
I don't know.
I thought it was like a
I
root word.
I knew 4 years ago. I don't know now.
We gotta
It's
get them
still
3
in there.
credits.
It's like theology, like study of God. Ecclesiology, study of the church.
So
the ecclesia.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the root word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The black church doesn't have the gospel.
Whew.
That's the point. That's one of the points. Sunken place ecclesiology.
Okay, go ahead.
The black church doesn't have the gospel.
Hold on. Wait. Is this
Cut me
some
off right there?
I'm sorry. I just have to ask. Is this someone saying that this is what they think the sunken place theology is? Or is this someone saying
Is this satirical?
yes.
This is someone saying this is
what it is?
This is what the sunken place is.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Go for it.
The black church doesn't have the gospel. Point 1. I have to go outside of my race / culture for sound doctrine. How often have we heard that?
Yep.
The black church is emotional and the white church is intellectual. And y'all have mentioned that.
I serve an emotional guy.
You know what I'm saying?
God
They-
has emotions. He
They,
feels.
white church, have the lyrics. Come on, how many times do we hear this? He's like, oh, I love CCM, and I love Hillsong, and I love Matt Redman, and I love Chris Tomlin because of their lyrics. They just expound, it's just all of the theology in the lyrics.
Yep.
I listen to this music because of the theology in the lyrics.
And black folks and black songs repeat themselves too much.
Because saying God is good isn't theological.
Yeah,
Right.
Never would have made it.
That's
Never would have made it.
That's not theological.
Hey, look. If it had not
They
been,
hate Ty Tribbett. I love you forever. I love you. That's the whole song.
I don't.
and aside to that, I like one of the things I heard. Like I grew up in a Black Caribbean Pentecostal church. Anyway, one of the things that would always come up would be like, well, you need to say Jesus. You need to say God because we don't know who you're talking about. Then why are we here at church? Who are we singing about here at church? Who else? So, yeah, go ahead. That just made me think about.
I don't need to be trained within the context I feel called.
Huh?
I don't need to be trained within the context I feel called. So what you do, you go out of the context that you're in to get trained so that you can come back into the context.
Hence
which
the
you trained
comment
because you don't
by
believe.
my former classmate. Oh, it's good to have you here. You know, we need people like you in the urban context.
Right. So you can take because we're right. Once again, the black man is the white man is the black man's savior. Once again, and we're here to save you again. We here to save you. We here to
You're welcome.
put y'all on the beaten path. That's been the thing since before the beginning of time. White people define what civilization is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you come to the Americas and you're like, oh, you're not civilized. You don't have plumbing or whatever it is. It's like, like when in all actuality, Egyptians, you know what I mean? Egyptians had plumbing. They had, you know what I mean? They created math and all this type of stuff. But, whole nother thing. But
just like the
you got this savior complex. You know what I mean? Like you conquer, but you come to conquer, but you come to save as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like I'm gonna say because what's the word? What's the word? Oh Lord, ethnocentrism.
No, yeah.
That is what that is. Where you're saying like your way of doing things, your way of doing culture is the right way to do things.
Everything revolves
and
around
and like so I'm coming over into y'all context and I'm about to change it because y'all not doing it right.
Yeah. Y'all don't know.
Y'all got to be wary of that. Especially I want to pause and I want to say this to people or what do you call them, practitioners going into different cultures and stuff, thinking that you coming to save stuff. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like let me give them the gospel. First of all, understand what their context is. Understand how these people think. Understand how these people live. Understand why people do the things that they do.
Yep.
Nothing. The gospel is the most malleable thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jesus comes into these situations and ain't like, y'all doing this wrong, y'all doing that wrong, y'all doing this wrong, y'all doing this wrong.
He's like, all right, sell all your stuff. Because he understood what was meaningful to them.
Exactly.
So he's like, all right, if you're going to follow me, this is what
But he knew who he was talking
He knew who he was
Yes.
talking to. I'm going to talk to this woman at the well because she know I shouldn't be talking to her.
Right.
But she going to talk to me anyway because I know she knows she shouldn't be talking to me, but she want to talk to me.
Right.
Right.
I mean, even like Paul's situation. Let me come to the Romans. Bruh, I don't know y'all, but let me explain. Like, I know your situation. Let me dig into you. Let me tell you this first, and then dig into you later. Like, everybody comes into a situation and, like, when in Rome,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Do as the Romans
I'm going to
do.
do as the Romans do. So I'm going to come to you as a Roman. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna come to you as one of these other folks.
And that's what it means. That's what Paul means when he says, I become all things to all men, so that I might save some.
Yep.
It's not like, oh, I'm about to come here, I'm about to wreck shop.
Right.
And y'all gonna be just
And
like
I'm
me.
gonna be
and
me.
y'all gonna wear dresses because I wear dresses. Y'all gonna wear these certain type of hats because I wear these certain type of hats, and these type of hats that make me feel holy.
These type of has to make me feel holy.
I mean, it's stupid
it's a
stuff
thing.
like that. It is stupid
thing.
stuff like that. I don't need to be trained within the context I feel called. Whatever dominant culture teaches me about my culture is pure and correct. Which is basically what we just said. Whatever dominant culture teaches me about my culture is pure and correct. So here's a dominant culture, and you telling me this and that, like so like, oh yeah, thank you for coming here, or now it's always like this thing of like, yo, what y'all was doing on this level was straight, but let us teach y'all a more excellent way. Like as if like y'all about to tell us, y'all about to give us a new revelation of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 or something. Right. Ignoring social issues in the name of being reformed or gospel centered.
Bro, that is I've seen so many ridiculous comments on like either people that have been popular in just both contexts, is like people that have been popular because of CCM or because of a multicultural or a black context, and seeing people comment and say, yo, just like stick to the gospel, or God didn't call you to worry about Black Lives Matter or worry about social justice. It's so grimy.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. I won't say names, but there have been, churches around, or a particular church around us has exclaimed that God doesn't care about your black life or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he cares. He cares very deeply about my black life.
Yeah.
Samaritan.
Otherwise, why would he make me black?
And this was a black pastor that said this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
Here was something that rocked me about a couple of years ago. We were coming up with like a video for Impact. So I was in like a creative meeting or whatever, and the president of Impact was in there, and pulling from my ideas. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I'm telling you my ideas, and y'all like writing them on the board, and like really is going with my ideas. This is nuts. But that's a whole other thing. But he gives us the rundown of like what this year's conference is supposed to be about. Yeah. And he's like, I want to ask y'all a question. Are you black first? Or are you a Christian first? So he's sitting there like trying to like low key figure it out. And he was
born black.
I was born black.
And then became a Christian.
And I became a Christian. So yeah, so like we thinking about it. And he was like, he said, you're both. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's there is no first. You know what I mean? Like you are black just as much as you are a Christian. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you saved just as much as you are black. So God has not called us not to be this thing, or like, oh well, dang, well I was stricken with this blackness, and now I must spend the rest of my life trying to shed it so that I may become holy, become like Him.
Because clearly, in all the movies and all the pictures that we've seen, he was white,
which is so.
I will say, in the past couple of years, we've gotten some very people that have went for a more accurate depiction
in the Shack.
Jesus way.
I encourage everybody to either read the book The Shack or watch the movie The Shack.
Yeah.
You will
incredible.
I need to see that movie, man.
He's not white in the movie.
In Riz, I like the Riz.
Middle Eastern.
Yeah, in Riz, he's Middle Eastern.
Super dope.
I was like,
Jesus?
Jesus is Middle Eastern.
This is good.
That's dope.
Yeah,
it made all the sense.
Yeah, I believe if people want to go to a black church. Yeah, they can go to a quote. When I say black church, I'm saying black
church with black people.
With black people,
doing
black quote unquote black people things.
Stupid.
I'm perfectly okay with that. And I'm perfectly okay with white people going to a quote unquote white church and being with white people. What I'm I'm not okay with like cultural biases and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
there can't be any absolutism. Outside of the gospel.
And so how do you work a lot of those, even some of those unknown and like undergirding and like stuff you don't even see underlying, like things like you have to be around other people from other cultures. So I want to say this. So with that, I'm okay with people remaining in their comfort zones. Yeah, I'm okay with that without these other things. Yeah, but you never know until you you confront it with that. Yeah. So I am for the multicultural church. Yeah. Yeah. But more than just what it looks like, I'm for what it's supposed to really be. I'm going to embrace your culture, or not bump that. I'm going to embrace you embracing your culture. Yeah. Right. Like, I don't necessarily have to rock with it. Like, dang, that ain't me. Right. You know what I mean? But I'm not about to be like, we don't do that over yonder. You know, like, we don't do that over here. Yeah. Over yonder. They do that over yonder. We don't do that over here.
That's the one thing I want.
If I'm truly being multicultural, if I'm truly being about that life, then I truly have to embrace, I mean, like the redeemable things of your culture.
And I think people go to multicultural churches because subconsciously they want to rid themselves of the traditionalism at their church.
Right.
This is true.
So I think that's why people go, but then run into some other stuff that they didn't know they was getting into. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
This is true.
So like, one thing for me, like growing up in a black church, one thing that I wish, I mean, they do it now. They do it a whole lot more now. And I used to test people all the time back in the game, but not test them. But anyway, like walking in a church with my hat on and being told, hey, bro, you need to take that off. You need to respect the house of the Lord. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not being respectful because I got a hat on or a baseball cap, like whatever. Like, I'm just like, why is it okay for the women to do it with the big hats and I can't even see around it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, stuff like that were the things that I wanted to rid myself of. And then ended up going to a church with more white people and they accepted those things, but shut down my whole blackness. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, I could come to church with a tank top and some shorts and some flip flops if I wanted to, but yeah, we can't. We're not singing these songs. We're not doing this. We don't really do this. We don't do that. And it was just like, man, like, where do I go? Like, what church is it okay for me to go to?
Right.
And struggle for the longest once, but learn something from both churches. You know what I'm saying? I learned in a black church. Number one, I'm gonna shout him out. I went to, in my opinion, one of the most phenomenal pastors' church, Tony Evans, from age 3 to 29. You know what I'm saying? Left there.
He said it like he went to mad other churches.
Right. So
I'm about 45 now. I don't know.
Right.
26 years in it.
No church like that one.
Tony Evans.
So I learned the Bible. You know what I'm saying? It was a Bible teaching church. But then left there and went to the Village Church with Matt Chandler. And there I learned, like, in no other, like, in a way that I've never learned it before, grace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So being able to clash those two things together let me know, man, we need each other.
Yeah.
Right.
There's value.
And we need each other, but we can't shut each other down.
Yeah.
Like, it's not okay for me to say, man, like,
It can't be the end all be all.
right. It
cannot.
can't be. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think that a lot of
Yes.
people want to get rid of. They want to get rid of the traditionalism that they've grown up with and come into
Right.
something brand new.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you seen it's like what Victoria was saying about, like, what she was alluding to, what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
It's like you throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of times. So like you see a hooping and hollering pastor like, oh, this, you must be about money.
Right.
You
Right.
you must be smashing every woman in the church.
Break it down.
Yeah,
And you break him down. I'm like, oh,
I'm going to say all of these.
he's teaching.
I'm going to say them. You must be stealing money. You must be drinking and doing all types of stuff, like,
Got two families.
Got two families and stuff. You must be doing all of this stuff because you preach like that. So like it gives you like this bad imagery in your head, bad reminders possibly. And it's like, well, I never want anything to do with that. So I just love hearing such and such just teach me the word. And that is fine if there's nothing behind that. You know what I mean? But then again, but it's crazy. It's crazy because I hear this often. You hear a lot of people that were raised in black churches, they like the teaching of stuff. But then you hear a lot of people from those other contexts. You're like, man, I really enjoy, like, he's really excited about what he's preaching about. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, dang, if I can find value in whatever in somebody else's culture, because then there's that other thing. People don't find value in their own stuff just because you too close to it. You can't see the forest for the trees. You can't see what's valuable within your own culture. So he's like, bump it. I'm gonna do away with my whole culture and I'm gonna be over here. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, it is very important. I think the multicultural church is very important, but just done correctly. Yeah. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you just see people like, it's like more this way than another way. Like, I remember, and I'll say it, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. At my church, there was a thing about the music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, and that was one of my things about being on the praise and worship team.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was my main mission, to be an advocate for people like me who grew up in the church.
Yeah.
Yep.
Grew up in a black church.
Yep.
Grew up in where they had like a dynamic music ministry.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I want to see that here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because music is what like caused me to learn more about God.
Yeah.
It made me want to learn more about God.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's one of the ways in which God spoke and still continues to speak to me.
Yeah.
So I can't stand when people say the music doesn't matter. To where people say, oh, it doesn't matter what songs we sing. It matters to me
Yep.
what songs we sing.
Yep.
Because I need to feel what we say. And I know I'm one of like maybe 300 people in that church on Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah.
But still, I'm one of 300 people
right.
in that church on Sunday to Sunday. And I don't feel like I'm that anomalous to where it's nobody else feeling like
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
All of it is important.
Yep.
We need to pay attention to all of it. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, we going to teach. I'm like, somebody may get hype off for the teaching.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And the next person might get hype off. I don't know. I like the way this person directs the service.
I like offering time.
Yeah,
I like the
I'm
MC.
here for
I like
the
the MC
I'm here for the
segment.
offering.
I like the MC.
I ain't gonna
segment.
lie. This past Sunday, I did come for the offering. I was like, I can't wait to give.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I'm being honest.
Yeah.
You know,
You never know.
it's like, yeah, so all of that stuff is important. We're not going to hold one to one esteem and one to a lower esteem. Even the Bible talks about these more exalted gifts on earth are not the most exalted gifts in God's heart. He's like, I'm looking at the person that's like, don't get the shine. I ain't looking like, I'm looking at these other gifts. They're important to me.
Yeah.
And so it's like that as far as like, yeah, all of that stuff has intrinsic value. It does. And it shows off the glory of God. It shows off the creativity of God. It shows off the multifaceted nature of God. I mean, and we would be doing God a disservice to just be like, all right, well, this is it.